Corn and Ethanol Production by Fanning. Corn and ethanol production. Ethanol has quickly become an increasingly more popular fuel in the United States, especially within the last decade. Throughout the country, the use of corn in fields has created a more green, environmental, and increasingly efficient gas. There are a lot of people who support the production and the use of corn in fields because it has provided to be economical as well as environmentally friendly. With the increasingly bad economy the past decade, anything that affects the economy in a positive way will be favored. Throughout the production of ethanol, there are a lot of industries and groups of people within the nation that have become affected. Some groups that are affected are the oil industry, the general public, the government, as well as business owners. Not only is a fraction of the country affected greatly by the production, but agriculture industries have been influenced as well. The use of corn in the production of ethanol affects family and corporate farms as well as ranches throughout the United States. A large amount of agriculture is affected by production because the use of corn to create ethanol is reducing the amount of feed that goes to livestock, as well as creating an increase in the price of corn per bushel. There are positive and negative aspects for farmers based on the production because they are making a lot of money. But due to the past year's drought and the predicted drought for the upcoming year, there will not be as much corn produced. This will reduce the amount of feed that goes to livestock, which in the end feeds our country. It will also create a decrease in the amount of corn that is put towards the production of ethanol. If there is not enough food for livestock, and there is a lack in the amount of corn going to the residents of the nation, there will not be enough food for the country. Due to the rise of the price of corn, livestock producers are greatly affected because of the affordability of feeding their animals. The Renewable Fuels Association, RFA, should endorse using other types of plants and crops in the productions of ethanol because it will provide more food for America, ensure diversity, as well as create an increase in international expansion. Everybody in the world needs to eat. Food is a necessary component of life, and without it, we would not be in existence. Not only would people not exist, but animals would not exist either. It is necessary to have food for animals because they provide people with food. The usage of other plants in ethanol would provide more food for America due to the fact that crops going towards ethanol would be more evenly distributed. This would allow for a larger amount of corn to go to beef cattle. According to the United States Census Bureau website, the world population is expected to grow 50% by 2044. The increase of people compares directly to the amount of food that needs to be provided for people to survive. If there is going to be that large of an increase in people, then the amount of food that is produced also needs to increase exponentially. The amount of food being produced is something that needs to be dealt with immediately and improved at all times. The United States Department of Agriculture, who are a renowned association and are extremely credible for their information, released a statistical document titled Cattle on Feed. According to this document, written by the National Agricultural Statistics Service through the United States Department of Agriculture, the amount of cattle on feed, containing large amounts of corn, is down 5%. This year, the amount of cattle that were on feed for slaughter totaled 10.9 million at the beginning of April, which is 5% lower than it was last year. This is an important aspect because these cattle are being raised to be butchered and put in stores, restaurants, as well as people's homes to provide them with nutritious meals. If the percentage of beef cattle is down, the amount of beef provided for consumption is also down. This is the opposite of what should be happening with the predicted increase in population. According to the USDA's Economic Research Service website, the total U.S. beef consumption from 2002 to 2011 has dropped from 27.9 billion pounds to 25.6 billion pounds. Along with this, the total of beef production in the same time frame has also dropped about 1 billion pounds. With the decrease of beef, not as much food is being produced for people's consumption. With the large increase in population, this is an issue because there will not be enough food to sustain everyone if a major part of our food supply continues to decrease at this rate. One of the reasons for the decrease in beef production is due to the increase in corn prices. The price per bushel have increased within the past few years, creating a greater expense for ranchers around the country. Approximately 50 to 60% of all ranchers' total expenses for the year are spent on feed to raise their animals. If the corn prices keep rising, then this percentage will be likely to increase as well. If there is an endorsement for an increase in the use of other plants in ethanol, then it is expected that not as much corn will be expected to be put towards the production of ethanol. In turn, more corn could go towards the feed for livestock, increasing the amount of beef cattle for slaughter. If more beef cattle are slaughtered, then more food is provided for the increasing population of the United States. The use of a variation of crops in the production of ethanol will create diversity within the production of ethanol and in agriculture. Not only will the corn farmers be flourishing with the various different groups that they sell to, such as livestock producers, markets, stores, and ethanol companies, but different crop producers will soon be able to diversify the groups that they sell their crops to as well. The RFA states how their members are extremely diverse, and the diversity of all members pushes market initiatives that thoughtfully and meaningfully expand the production and the use of ethanol domestically and abroad. Through using multiple crops in the production of ethanol, a continuation of increasing the diversity of the company will occur. There will be connections to different industries within the agricultural industry itself. This will allow success in fulfilling the desire to be as diverse as possible within the ethanol industry. In a general review named Ethanol from Cellulose, a general review, written by P.C. Badger from Purdue University, it is stated that there are various different crops that are capable of being used and that are used for the production of ethanol. Some of these plants are switchgrass, sugarcane, sugar beet, and various fruits. Anything that has sugar in it is able to be fermented to use in the production of ethanol. The amounts of these products that are used within the ethanol depend on the cost of them individually. The various crops that are able to be used to create ethanol do not only create room to expand the production and limit the use of corn that is used, but it creates an opportunity for the ethanol industry to connect with various farmers. All of the various industries in agriculture are different. The academic journal, Sugar Beet for Bioethanol Production, an approach based on environmental agricultural outputs, by Milena Salazar Ordonez from the Energy Policy, discusses the usage of sugar beets in Europe used for ethanol. It states that 30% of ethanol is produced from sugar beets within Europe, and the usage of sugar beets in Europe has increased the amount of ethanol produced in the country. This gives a different perspective on techniques that foreign countries are using for their production. This also opens up the door for the United States to have a new idea to create ethanol and look into using other countries' practices. This will add diversity to the ethanol industry in America and will continue to the variation of plants used. Furthermore, there is an academic journal titled Sugarcane Ethanol, Strategies to a Successful Program in Europe by Jose Goldenberg, a professor at the University of Sao Paulo with a PhD in physical science. He has been an author of many environmental and energy technical papers. This academic journal states that there is a large amount of sugarcane used in ethanol in Brazil. It creates enough ethanol to replace about 50% of the gasoline used in the country, creating a renewable fuel that is good for the environment. Again, the perspective of using a different crop for the production of ethanol is able to diversify the ethanol industry and the culture of Brazil. Although Brazil is a large producer of sugarcane, the United States is able to trade with them to obtain amounts of sugarcane to add to our ethanol production. Although this may be expensive for the production, according to an article by Blair Eutner from the Bloomberg News, the United States is in the top 5 sugarcane producing countries. The various uses and techniques of different countries and the different plants that they have used and have been successful in using to produce ethanol can create diversity to the industry. Also, it can reduce the amount of corn that we use by using different crops in which other countries have been very successful in using. This would benefit the ethanol industry with large production of ethanol, as well as the livestock industry with a decrease in the amount of corn used in ethanol. The diversity of crops that are used throughout the production of ethanol should create an increase in the production of ethanol, as well as create an expansion to the use of the product to other countries throughout the world, creating international expansion. This would be an improvement because the environmental friendly fuel would be shared with various countries, which would be benefited. different countries are high in the productions of different crops due to the different climates in various parts of the world. For example, according to the website Index Mundi, which is a website designed to give various statistics about different countries backed by the USDA, Europe is extremely high in the production of sugar beets and tops the charts, followed by the Russian Federation. This suggests that the United States has the option to connect as well as trade with Europe for sugar beets to increase the production of ethanol. Also, it allows for the option of trading for the sugar beet itself or ethanol from Europe that has been produced from sugar beets. This will continue to the international aspect of ethanol throughout the United States because of the trade as well as various techniques and different crops that are used. Additionally, there is a connection between the United States and Brazil. In an academic article titled "The Evolution of Brazilian Regulation of Ethanol and Possible Lessons for the United States" by David N. Cassudo, a professor at Williams College in Massachusetts, it states that Brazil and the United States are the leading countries in ethanol production. Not only is corn used in the ethanol, but sugar cane as well as various other crops can be as well. Additionally, the journal talks about the comparison between the United States corn ethanol and the Brazilian sugarcane ethanol, and how the U.S. corn ethanol is a lot more expensive, and the adoption of the Brazilian techniques might lower the cost. This suggests that taking other techniques from international sources might improve the production of ethanol in America, as well as lower the prices, which would benefit multiple people and groups. With the different international relation that we already have due to ethanol, the options continue to grow with the amount of techniques as well as crop importing we can do with other countries to expand our international connections and improve our ethanol production. The production of ethanol is growing throughout the United States as well as throughout other countries, with not only the usage of corn, but sugar beets, sugar cane, and other crops that contain sugar contents. The ethanol industry is greatly liked in the United States because it is an environmentally and economically beneficial industry which is favored by a large portion of the country. Although it is helping economically, it also affects a lot of different industries other than its own. The ethanol industry affects a huge portion of the agricultural industry as well. All of these aspects of production in ethanol need to be looked at carefully and analyzed to assess what best benefits the country's needs currently and in the future. It is necessary to remember that the amount of corn that goes into the production of ethanol also creates a change in the amount of corn that is available for livestock that feed the people across the country and people around the world. Additionally, the population of America, as well as the rest of the world, is increasing rapidly, which means that our food production needs to increase along with it. Furthermore, the international relationships with other countries in the United States could be strengthened with the action of trading various crops and the ideas for production of ethanol. I propose to the Renewable Fuels Association that they should endorse using other types of plants as well as crops in ethanol because it will provide more food for America, ensure diversity throughout the world, as well as create an increase in international expansion.